Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another special episode of Courage Talks. Special guest today is Sundeep Singh. More than anything else, I would proudly call him a friend. 2 decades in Accenture. We have the same alma mater. He's an MBA from where I'm doing my PhD, so that's another connect. And of course, the biggest connect of all is we share the love of running and writing books. Fellow author, fellow runner. I think it took a long time for you to get here, Sandeep.
No, I'm so glad that finally we are here. We have been speaking so often, but this has taken some time, so I'm happy to be here.
I know. Goes to show how busy a schedule you have, man.
We all have that, right? As runners and writers.
I know. So I think everyone in your social circle knows who you are today, a runner, Accenture guru, author. Not many might know about your childhood, apart from what was mentioned in your book for sure. But why don't you just take us through some of the most precious memories of your childhood that still resonate with you and something that you still laugh about?
So, see, when I was a kid, when I close my eyes and think about who I was as a kid, the memories that come to my mind are, playing mischievous pranks with my family members. I used to derive a lot of joy out of irritating people. I don't know why, but I feel embarrassed when I look back at that kind of phase of my life. It used to give me a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very happy-go-lucky kind of a person. Somebody who will never, ever, skip a Sachin Tendulkar batting when he's playing live, regardless of whether it's a board exam or whatever is going on in the life. So fun-loving, mischievous, loving pranks, watching Tendulkar, those are the things that come to my mind. And I just feel like I have evolved and changed so much in many ways, in good ways and bad ways over the last, 2.5 decades now.
The topic is Courage Talks, right? What's your definition of courage and do you have a role model?
So when I think about courage, for me, it is like when the odds are heavily stacked against you. Can you still find that energy, that desire, that motivation from within to keep going forward with the full acknowledgement that you might not get anywhere? If you can do that, that to me is courage. Now, you say, do you have a role model? I don't think I have role model as such, but I do have a few people that I admire.
Sure.
And when I talk about these people, it's not the usual big superheroes that we are all aware of. Like, of course, I'm a big diehard Tendulkar fan. I'm a big Dhoni fan. And then, of course, they are great in their own ways. But one story of courage which really resonated with me, again, comes from the world of cricket, is the Sri Lankan cricketer Marwan Attapattu. I'm not sure if you are aware, but when he made his debut, he scored a 0.
Yes.
In his second match, he scored a 0. So 2 consecutive ducks to begin his career. He was dropped. For a couple of years, he did not play a single match thereafter.
Yeah.
He came back after 2 years. He got a chance finally, went back to the domestic cricket, came back finally, again scored a duck in his third match, which he got to play after 2 years. Got another chance in that same series, scored another duck. So 4 consecutive ducks to begin his career, again gets dropped.
Yeah.
Now, imagine a person in that state of mind, somebody I'm sure who has worked extremely hard to make it to the national cricket team, scores 4 ducks to begin his career, and again dropped. And now there is no certainty because you have flunked 4 times. There is no certainty that whether you'll get a call back. Now the selectors are also getting frustrated with your lack of scoring or absence of scoring, rather, complete absence of scoring. Now, in that moment, if you can have that mindset that I want to go back, do whatever it takes, without having that certainty that I will ever get a call back, that requires a lot of courage. That to me is the true hallmark of a courageous person who finds the motivation to move forward without any assurance or surety that effort will take the person anywhere. By the way, just to complete the story, he again came back after another 2 years, I guess. He scored a 1. He scored a 0, but this time around, rather than getting dropped after the second match, he got another chance in that series. And thereafter, the century started flowing. So it took a good 7 years of international cricket to score 1 run. Then he went on to become the one of the most prolific run getters for Sri Lanka. That calls for a lot of courage, in my opinion. So those are the kind of stories which really resonate very well with me.
I think that's a very great example that you shared. What do you do when you can't do anything, right?
Yes.
And it's not about lack of preparation. It's not lack of form. It's not lack of talent, but the results are not there, right? And results not being there was something which you have suffered a lot during your school days. And
yes.
People ended up judging you based on your numbers rather than who you are. What is the most emotional moment of your school which still remains with you?
So this is something that I have covered in my first book as well. And Hital, you are aware of it since we have spoken, but I'll still call it out. So this was in class 11th. when I just moved from class 10th to class 11th, my parents had put me into IITJEE. That's a forum for preparing for IITJEE. And I had least interest in even thinking about why am I wasting my time. So what I did was I took somebody's advice and I started bunking my classes. Every afternoon I would step out from the house, go play somewhere, come back at about 8 o'clock in the night, telling my parents that I came back from IITJEE and it was a decent class, whatnot. I did that for good 90, 100 odd days, 3 months at a stretch. And when that happens, when you do something like that, it starts to reflect in your results at some point in time. So there was this moment when I got 2 marks out of 25 in one of the usual tests in our school. And the second lowest in the class was about 11 or 12. So it was not like the whole class struggled. So the range was 12 to 23, and then there was an outlier 2 out of 25. As it turned out, I went back home and I found a totaling mistake in my answer sheet. It was not 2, it was actually 2.5. And this makes me laugh as well. That I was so stupid that I could not appreciate that there is no difference between 2 and 2.5 when you have fared that badly. So the next day I went back to the teacher and I said, ma'am, there is a totaling mistake. And as luck would have it, it was around 11:50 when I went to the teacher with that kind of a request that please fix my totaling mistake.
Was your teacher also Sardarji?
No, she was not. She was not.
Since you said 11:50, मैंने कहा यार 12 बजे वाला पढ़ना तो नहीं आ रहा है.
It was bad for me, not for her. It was, and I never thought about it, how she would look at it. So she looked at the sheet. She
looked at you that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. She looked at the sheet first of all. When I told her that there is a totaling mistake, she totaled the marks in my sheet. She found it 2.5, but she was confused. She thought that she is again making a mistake. She looked at me and she asked, "How much is it?" I said, "I'm 2.5." Now that disgust in her eyes is something that I will never forget. That disgust in her eyes, it's hard to forget that sight. She looked at me for a couple of moments and then she tore the answer sheet and she handed it over back to me. Now that for me was a tipping point. Like, there is always that point which kind of propels you in a different pathway. Had that not happened on that day, I would have been a very different person today. 2.5 decades down the line, I would have been a very different person. She tore that sheet. Now, for some reason, I went back to the home and I kept that torn answer sheet as a prized possession that I wanted to really preserve very, very carefully, as something which is very dear to me. And then, that's where the serious preparation for JEE started. 1.5 years later, after the end of my 12th, I got into, IITJEE and all of that good stuff happened. And after I passed out from the school, I went back to the teacher with that same torn sheet and requested, ma'am, can you please fix this? This totaling mistake needs to be fixed. So she was confused. She was like, why does it even matter to you at this point in time? You have completed your boards. You have secured a seat in IITJEE. Why does it matter? So I said, ma'am, I was not asking for a grace mark. It was my mark. Howsoever inconsequential it may have been for you, there was no reason for you and the entire class to make fun of me at that point in time. So, and that for her was a tipping point as well when I said that to her. So she again took a pause. She picked up a pen. She corrected the total. She said 2.5, and beneath that total, she said that, well done. I respect you for what you have done. Wherever you go in life, I will cheer for you from right here. And that teacher to me is the biggest blessing that I've ever had in my life. She's still a friend, by the way. So I'm calling out this incident not to call out in any negative connotation that what she did to me was not right. I call it out with full positivity that had it not been for that moment, I would not have reached where I am today. So that is one moment which really makes me emotional even today. Sometimes people ask me, what do you think about when you run? Amongst many things, this is one incident that I have thought about many times when I'm running in the early morning hours.
No, of course, I think this is the third time I've heard this, but every time I hear it, it's very sobering, right? It makes me realize the level of courage required in every step. To bunk the class, it requires courage to not tell the parents. It requires courage to total it up. It requires courage to go to the teacher. It requires even more courage to go back. You could have just closed the chapter then and there, but you retained that answer sheet as well.
And two points I'll like to add here, Hital. One, it was very gratifying when my mom got to know about this. Not then. She got to know about it now when I wrote the book, when she read the book. She got to know about it now. So that kind of adds to a lot of joy. And the second thing, part of the reason why I wrote this book was not to celebrate the fact that I got into IIT or anything like that. I think many people do that. And there is nothing to be bragging about it. But I wanted to make sure that my son gets to know that I am a person who has made my fair share of mistakes. Bunking classes, lying to parents, hiding, concealing things from teachers, all of that usual stuff that we teenagers get into. I've done all of that. I wanted him to know that. I want him to know about my insecurities, my vulnerabilities, where I've flung, where I've failed, and then still call out that it is human to make all those mistakes. But it is good that if, as a person, you can raise your hand and face it when you realize that it's not the right thing to do. If you can raise your hand and then have the courage to move forward from wherever and howsoever bad position you have landed into, that to me is a good personality. That to me is a strong personality, and I want him to be that strong personality, not a successful personality, but a strong personality who can face things, who can face adversities, who can make mistakes, make humanly mistakes, and still own them up when he realizes that it was not the right thing to do. Those are the kind of messages I want him to acquire from the book.
And when you mentioned about your mother knowing about the incident through the book, it reminds me of how my mother reacted when she finished reading the book. And obviously, my book was my dad's story, and my mother knew every second, every minute of it. But the look on her face was so gratifying. And I think within 12 hours, she was downstairs. She went to her friend circle in the society. And after half an hour, I get a call, beta 15 कॉपी लेके आओ. मैंने कहा क्या? Everyone wants your book. I said, okay, great. There's nothing like the most closest people appreciating, well, you take their love for granted, but when it comes in a very formal way, oh wow, there's a written word. I mean, sometimes my mother's comments on my Facebook post are the most cherished, because like, oh wow, अच्छा तू वो करने गया था, अच्छा ये है वो, ओ ओके, अच्छा ये वो इवेंट है, ओके.
Amazing.
That's true. Coming back to your studies, your Junoon, your quest for IITJEE and then MBA and then Accenture, I love a word called Junoon. Now, there was obviously a Junoon which led you to get to IIT where you did, right? Was that same Junoon what helped you in your success in your corporate life, or was there a very different Sundeep at work than what he was as a student?
So I strongly believe that what you are from deep within, like your core, that doesn't change, or that doesn't change easily. While I said a short while back that I'm a very different person from what I was like a kid, like when I was a younger Sandeep, but at the heart of it, if you really go deep within me to understand my DNA, the way I think, the way I persevere, the way I chase my goals, I don't think that has changed. My wife tells me this all the time. When I claim that I'm a changed person, she says, no, you are not a changed person. You are exactly what you were 2 decades back. Just that your priorities have shifted, and hence the kind of things that you are pursuing and chasing has shifted. But, Haital, you said Junoon. I think like at the heart of it, I'm still the same person who holds that same junoon for whatever I want to do, be it in relationships, be it at corporate world, be it in any kind of pursuits of my work, be it in writing, be it in running. The way I get possessed about doing the right thing is, I believe, the foundation of whatever I have been able to accomplish in life. So that to me is a trait which I don't think has changed at all. What has changed in the process, which I'm glad has changed, is the way I allow the final results to impact me. So I will always go out full throttle with whatever intensity I can bring in. I'll go all out, like night outs, and I wouldn't care about resting. All of that is still the same. But a Sandeep of yesteryears, let's say 2 decades prior to this, would be really impacted if he chased something and did not get it. While a Sandeep of today is fully content with putting in every ounce of energy, put in the heart and soul into a pursuit, and still just smile when things don't happen without feeling bad about it. And I think that is something that running has taught me. I don't think that came easy. I don't think I read it anywhere. I don't even think it happened overnight. It has happened bit by bit over the last several years. But now those gradual shifts that have happened in me, in my way of looking at things as the final outcome, has become such a big shift, has become a prominent change in my personality type, that now I can appreciate that what have I learned from the act of running. And I'll obviously talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But so the Junoon is still the same. Just the way I deal with the final outcomes has shifted.
And that's maybe soberness because of age, because of maturity. You've spent more than 2 decades at one company. Our parents were known for a lifetime employment. We were kind of more sober. Is it the fact that you had a much larger purpose in life which helped you to stick around with one company and reduce the tension on the work side? Number one. Number two, is Accenture genuinely a great organization? And you're not saying this because it's on public. What is the story?
So I think it's a bit of both. And I mean, it might sound like a diplomatic answer, but I think it's a bit of both. I don't think one would take any kind of, an environment if you're not comfortable with it beyond a point. So the fact that I have still stayed around is partly or maybe largely because of what Accenture is as an organization. I don't deny that. But having said that, I also have a very strong view that people sometimes think of changing a job as an easy way out. When you are in the middle of an assignment, when you're in the middle of a project,
you're running away from your problems, right? Yeah.
You're running away from your problems. I mean, people might say that, I'm getting a good offer, which is difficult to refuse and all of that. But I think staying the course for 2 decades in one organization actually is far more difficult than switching jobs and getting those kind of short-term benefits on your raises and all of that. So to me, it is akin to actually moving away from a problem and taking the easy way out, which as an endurance runner, I would never do that. I'll much rather stay the course. So wherever, those moments of doubt came in during my 18, 19 odd years of Accenture journey so far, whenever those moments of doubt came in, when the going got tough, there was a difficult project, there was a difficult client, even if the thought flashed in your mind about changing, I, as a person, as a runner, I would always tell myself that, okay, we'll think about it. We'll give it a serious thought, but not now. You first have to overcome this hurdle. You have to first get it right. And once it gets right, you are free to move on. I would not let myself move on at the time of difficulty or obstacles. And invariably in the process, what happened was that once you overcome an obstacle, that desire or urge to move on anyways has faded by that time. And you start to see the good things. So that's why what I say. It's a bit of what Accenture is as a firm, because I haven't had a lot of those moments and I've had to really think of moving on. In those few moments that may have happened over the last 18 years, as a person, as an endurance runner, I would never allow myself the luxury of moving on when the going is tough. I would rather stay the course and then fix it. That's what the mantra has been for me.
So staying on Accenture, and I have to openly admit, right, I think your running accolades, your timing, your consistency, everything on one side. The fact that you're working in a blue chip, big, large organization and you're doing all that. Hats off. Because I have been observing for the last 12, 15 years that I've been on the running circle, very few people, if any, are able to sustain job at a blue chip company and do running. Either the quality suffers or the quantity suffers or they don't run. I think if I can remember, Vivek Vashisht in IBM was probably the only big name brand which I used to see frequently on the running circle. Obviously, he also dropped out at some point of time, and I could sense that because I knew Vivek personally, so I knew that it's difficult to do it right. The fact that you not only sustained it, but you had that amazing stint of 100 days of half marathons where I'm sure the company supported. So what was the scenario like? Why did you pick out a few days when it genuinely was difficult and you still had to get to do that because you had that 100-day streak and obviously for a very beautiful purpose, which was to raise awareness about pollution. So why don't you just tell us, how did that go?
Sure. So I think first thing in terms of being able to sustain, I genuinely feel like a lot of times when we say that we are running out of time to do something, it is not that we are running out of time. It is just that we are letting the time leak away in things which don't matter. So just becoming extremely conscious of where you put in your time. I always tell my younger colleagues that every minute of time that you spend anywhere can be spent on 5 other things. You can be with your family, you can be with your friends, you can be with your clients, you can be doing nothing by yourself, running, writing, whatever. So every minute of your time, you have to become conscious. And that's something which plays at the back of my mind all the time. Like I never ever entertain any kind of a conversation which is like a gossip or which is like, a crib in terms of why something cannot be done. I'm infamous for that in my teams. If somebody wants to come and have a chat with me, you cannot have a conversation with me about why something is not doable. There are enough and more reasons and enough and more people who can talk about that. You want to have my attention, tell me how it can be done. Otherwise, there is nothing to discuss. If nothing can be done, then please find your way and I will be on my way, and let's not even waste our time, each other's time. So I think the mantra has been just extremely razor sharp focus on how you spend your time and effort, on what you spend your time and effort on. That's one. Second, to the point around 100 half marathons. Now, this is one thing that I genuinely believe in, something that I really care for. And as a sustainability professional, anyways, environment is something very close to my heart. So I genuinely wanted to do something about it. And that same thing, I don't want to talk about why it is not doable. I don't want to talk about why government is not doing something. Falana Dhamkana is not doing something. That doesn't take us anywhere from where we are today. My whole point is that if there is something that I can do as an individual, I'd rather focus my attention and energy on that. So that was the first thing that I kind of thought about when I initiated that campaign. Now, my idea was that I will do something which is out of the ordinary, get people's attention. And in that window of attention, I will start to push out messages which they can hear. And then those messages would be more in terms of what you can do as an individual. So that was the whole construct.
Yeah.
Now, you might find it surprising, but it happened over a red light. Me and my wife were sitting, at a red light, heading out for our usual weekend coffee date. And I announced to her that from tomorrow, I'm running 100 half marathons in 100 days. There was no thought prior to that. It just occurred to me in that moment. And I told her that this is what I'm doing from tomorrow. I realized that it was a bigger than what it seemed like kind of a statement to make. So sometimes when you want to stay the course, the best way to do it is close all exit options. Don't give yourself the luxury of having an easy exit. And my way of doing that was to make it like a public statement. I went to social media the same day. I said, from tomorrow, I'm running 100 half marathons in 100 days. This is for a cause, right to breathe, all of that. So by doing that, I deliberately closed all my exit options. And then there was no coming back. I had to do it, right? So that was the second thing. Now, when I went and announced this to my seniors in the firm, this is what he had to say. He kind of gave me a lot of reasons, first of all. He said, I care for you. And I don't know how you will even manage. There are times when you have to travel. What will you do then? I said, I will run during my travel. He said, what if you get injured? I said, I will run with my injuries. So he kept asking 4 or 5 things. What if this? I said, I will run with that. So he understood that I have made up my mind. So then he said, seems like you have made up your mind. So if that is the case, rest assured that I stand here with you. Any day you need to push back something, any day you need somebody to be delegated for something from the office work, from the professional work, we will back you up. You are doing it for a cause and don't think you are alone now that you have decided it. So that's the kind of support infrastructure I got from my firm, from Accenture. Quite clearly, before that campaign happened, Hetal, I had not done more than 2 consecutive half marathons. So I did not even know what it takes to keep doing that day after day for 100 days. I mean, I had done over one weekend, I had done a Saturday and a Sunday half marathon, but that was the extent of it. So Vatagana, when you start something like this, there is a lot of euphoria. People are really excited. They all cheer you. They all wave at you. You have made a social commitment. So they are aware what you are up to.
Yeah.
But that euphoria lasts for 5-6 days. Uske baad it becomes a usual sight. So then that hand
it's
wave
like going
and
in the morning to brush your teeth.
They're like, okay, he's still running and it's good that he's running, but that's it. There is no vibrancy around it. There is no energy and frenzy around it. So that is when you have to dig deep within. You can't be relying on external kind of applause and appreciation.
Yeah.
That's where you have to start really finding that energy and motivation from within. But I think it was the 68th day of that campaign. And by that time, the body had taken pounding of unprecedented level. Like every single day I was going through a different level of pain. On the 68th day, my left foot was swollen so badly that my usual UK12 would not fit in. So I had to find a similar shoe of different sizes. So I bought UK11 and UK12 of the same model. And I wore UK11 in one and the UK12 in the other. Because it was so badly swollen. And that's how I started running. So that was...
ये महंगा वाला 16,000 का जूता तो नहीं था ना?
ये वही था. Actually, ये वही था. So I actually donated it after the campaign. There are a lot of...
ने जूता उठा के मारा नहीं तुमको?
No, she was aware that there was no way I was coming out of it. So the option was very simple. Do it whatever it takes. And I think the other thing which comes to mind when you ask about a painful moment, and this is the first time I admitted that in the book that I just showed you. There was one moment in that campaign when I actually cried, like literally wept like a kid with tears coming out. So my stance was very clear that every single kilometer of that campaign has to be measured in the GPS watch. Because it's a tall claim to make at the end of the day that you have done 100 half marathons in 100 days. There cannot be like, it's my word versus your word. It's all GPS tracked. It's all there on the cloud. So 88th run, Hital, when I was in Mumbai that day for some client work. At night, I was doing the run and unfortunately, I forgot to charge my watch properly. At 14th kilometer, I got a message that it is running out, battery critically low. That Garmin beep came in. At 18th kilometer, I got the message, battery critically low. And before I finished 19th, it had died down. And that did not get counted. And then I just don't know. I had a brain fog. I did not know what to do because there was no way I was going to recover those 18 kilometers on that day. It was already 9 p.m. at night. Body had the fatigue of
तो सर
88,
3 घंटे थे आपके
87.
पास, कर सकते थे तुम, लेकिन
कर सकते थे,
लेकिन घड़ी
बट
को चार्ज करने में तो
हालत
टाइम
काफी
लगेगा
खराब हो
ना.
चुकी थी उस टाइम तक. हालत
I'm
काफी
just
ज्यादा खराब
kidding,
हो
buddy.
चुकी थी. So
हाँ,
and,
yeah.
and I just sat somewhere and I cried, literally cried. Nobody knows. I was all by myself. I don't even know where I was in the city. But the final thought that I got up with was that the claim I had made, the commitment I had made was that I'll do 100 half marathons in 100 days. I never committed that I will do one half marathon every day for 100 days, right? So I could still do what I wanted to do if I
Wow,
could do two
सरदार
half
जी क्या
marathons in 100
दिमाग
days.
पाया आपने जी. Yeah, so the other question I had, and I should have asked this to you earlier. How did running start? You have a funny anecdote which I read somewhere. Why don't you just narrate to us?
So it is one of those things which is destined to happen. Like I was actually interviewing somebody in my office and asked the same old usual questions: your background, your hobbies, what do you want to do in life, where do you see yourself, all of that usual stuff. And I ended up asking a question which changed my life. I asked him about what does he do over the weekends, and the gentleman tells me that I run half marathons and full marathons. So I asked him, what does that really mean? I mean, I knew it's a long distance, but I didn't know exactly how much it is. So that gentleman told me, what half marathon is, what full marathon is, and I suddenly became conscious of myself. I mean, I was about 94 kgs at that point in time. And it was almost like somebody was showing me the mirror that this is a person of similar age group and he can run half marathons and full marathons for fun, over the weekends. Almost thought that he was trying to psych me up. Who does that kind of thing for fun over the weekends, right? So I went back home. I told my wife that I met somebody who runs those kind of distances for fun. So she prompted me. She said, "Why don't you go and try for yourself? How much can you do?" And I was breathless at 600 meters. So I have to admit that this entire running journey started with a sense of petty ego. I was like, yeah, he runs 21 kilometers. I'm stopping at 600, so I need to improve. So that was the petty ego that got me started. But sometimes, things are meant to happen. And then that 600 meters became 2 kilometers, that 2 became 5. And then I promised myself that within a year, I will run a half marathon. So Airtel Dairy half marathon used to be the most
Yeah.
prominent event in that point in time.
Yeah.
This thing happened, I think, around February, March. I told myself that
Yeah.
in November, I will do my first half. And once that first half happened, 3 months later, the first full happened in Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon, as they used to be in that. And then the desire kept increasing, the desire to run more, the desire to run faster, all of those things start to take over. It's accidental. I call myself an accidental runner. In fact, the book calls that as well. It says an marathon at the bottom.
Did you go back to that guy and thank him ever for the transformation?
Oh yes, I have acknowledged him on every forum that I have spoken about running. His name is Gautam Krishnan. He is no longer with Accenture. Gautam Krishnan. He is an ISB alumnus. So good friend of mine. And I still kind of remind him that it was that interview which changed my life forever. So, by the way, he has stopped running after that. That's the funny part.
नहीं होता है यार, हमको जो आगे ले जाते हैं वो खुद पीछे रह जाते हैं फिर. 2020 is remembered worldwide for COVID. You had another reason to remember. You went crazy on one fine day in August and ran 100 kilometers overnight. क्या हुआ था? दिमाग तो ठीक था?
I don't think so. I think COVID took a toll in many ways, and it had taken a mental toll on me, if I have to be candid with you. I mean, I had been practicing that complete social distancing and the usual norms that were in place at that point in time for almost about 4 months. And it was extremely difficult. I mean, you can surely appreciate what it means to not step out of the house for 4 months at a stretch. I was completely diligently following it. So one Friday evening, I started romanticizing with the idea of stepping out a little bit and just seeing what it means. I said that I can't contract anyway because people around me are all practicing social distancing. There is nobody on the road. I will do a usual run and come back. And the moment I went down, something just took over. I feel like I wasn't in my own zone. I was somebody else because I was doing that same beautiful feeling of running. I was experiencing that after such a long time, completely unexpectedly. And I ran and I wanted to run more and I wanted to run. Then suddenly the idea occurred to me. It's been a while since I did something insane. That 100 half marathons, 100 days, it's been a couple of years. So why don't I make that right today? So I kept running. I mean, even then I hadn't thought about 100 kilometers. So I used to stay in a society which had a balcony on the first floor. And that balcony oversaw the track which I was running. So Sometime later, I think maybe an hour or so later, my wife came to the balcony and she asked me that, should I wait for you for dinner? Or will it take time? I said, wait for me for breakfast. So I had said that jokingly. And then suddenly I was like, what if I actually make her wait for my breakfast and run the whole night? And then I thought about it and I said that, okay, let's do 100 kilometers. And yeah, I mean, completely unplanned. Some of the most beautiful memories I have are painful when they happen, but really, really beautiful in hindsight. So it's one of those things.
So your GPS and your watch lasted that 100 kilometers?
Yes, those were the considerations I had. That how do I make it last? Because I had that experience of what it means when your watch gives up on you. So I kept thinking about it. So what I did was I told my wife when she came back to me that I need a bit of energy drinks. I need a little bit of changes that I will need to do through the night. So please keep that close to the main gate at the society and put my second watch on charge so that I can keep flipping it. That was the only consideration I had. And in fact, I told myself this is the day for which I had bought two watches. I was always questioned that why do you need a couple of watches? You can do with one. But that was the day for which I had bought those two watches, I guess. So I changed twice. When I changed, I put the one that I was wearing on charging and then brought it back. So those changes happened. I think it was at around 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning when I finished. And I have to admit that since it was completely unplanned, I know people have done ultras and, whatnot, bigger distances, but a lot of that takes planning and diligence to get into it. It doesn't happen impromptu that you step out for a casual jog and come back after 100 kilometers. I remember at 97th kilometer, I felt so miserable that I could not even perform the simple math. I was wondering that how many more kilometers do I have to go? And my mind was questioning me that 97 to 100 might be 4 kilometers, 97, 98, 99, 100. That's what life does to you. That's what physical kind of endurance does to you. And I feel like I was a mishmash of organs loosely packed inside an organic packaging called skin. So again, it's an experience that I can't even put in words. But what I felt in that moment was that I was experiencing pain, but not in the way the word pain carries the connotation. It was just a feeling which could not bother me. It was just a feeling like, it's happening to you, but it's not troubling you anymore. That's the kind of zone I had slipped into. Very hard to explain what I felt in those last few kilometers. And when I finally stopped, I remember I just laid there on the grass. Some people actually thought that I have collapsed. A few casual walkers by who had stepped out. But then I told them that I'm good and I went back home. But again, I don't think I can even begin to describe what all went through my mind through that night. It's completely by yourself, immersed in your ideas, completely brutally honest to you. A lot of times I always say this, what we say and the way we project ourselves is unconsciously driven by how you want to be perceived by people around you. Sometimes you feel like you're saying what you believe in, but it's actually not what you genuinely believe in. Your genuine, true, real thoughts are trapped deep within you. And sometimes you are ashamed to share those because that doesn't, adhere to the so-called social decorum of the society. But it introduced me to my genuine, purest thoughts deep within. So that's what running has done to me. That's what running did to me that night. And I never wanted that feeling to end. But then I realized that if I don't end this run, I might end myself. So I had to.
But you never went the ultra wave, if I'm not wrong, right? You stuck to half and full marathon.
It was never the ambition of doing that. I mean, it was again one of those completely unplanned things which I don't even know why I did. And in fact, I had a feeling of hollowness for many days after that. What it did to me was that I started comparing every usual run thereafter for a few weeks and months to that gigantic run that I did on the night. I would feel like, ye to kuch bhi nahi hai. What have I done? I wasted my half an hour and came back. It almost felt like, running was supposed to be like a pot of joy that was supposed to be judiciously used. And I have drawn all the nectar that it had to offer and there is nothing more to be derived from running. But then I reminded myself there is one thing that I still care for. That was the Boston qualification, which kept me moving. But yeah.
Let's hear about your Boston qualification story. That again is worth talking about.
So yeah, Boston is something which I always had my eyes on, something which I always chased, something I always aspired for. And it took me several years. Hetal, you are a runner. You know that for a person who is completely new to the world of running, to get to those timings takes a lot of effort and it doesn't happen overnight. Every single year, I kept missing the timing target by a few minutes. At a point in time, it was the qualification time was 3 hours 20 minutes. I used to do 3:23, 3:24 at that time. By the time I got to 318, the qualification criteria had become 315 because they keep revising it every few years. Finally, it was 310. The 3 hour 10 minutes barrier is what I had to break to get into the Boston qualification books. It happened, after a lot of hard work and whatever you might want to call it. It eventually happened in 3 hour 9 minutes 36 seconds. And it happened in that year where the cutoff was actually 0 minutes. It happened in one of the years, if you recall, where everybody who qualified got the license to run. So I had my license. That's what I was telling you, that sometimes when great things happen, you start to feel great about yourself, as if you are the one who orchestrated that. You are the one, the invincible warrior who has really thrashed all boundaries and done it. And that's where I realized that you are a speck in that infinite ocean of things where you are completely immature if you believe that you are the one who did it. It happened. Great. Feel it, enjoy it, but don't be overly proud of it in the sense of that you have done it. So what happened to me thereafter was that I was supposed to run in April in that Boston. Just prior to that, I went to Tata Mumbai Marathon in January. Supposedly my last race, like a full marathon before I would do the big Boston, something that I have earned after a decade long of chasing and perseverance and all of that. That morning in Mumbai, I got a back pain, which rendered me completely immobile. I was on the floor for 3 hours and then somehow managed to get back home. And I could not move for 6 months, leave alone running. I could not move. So for 6 months, I was completely on the bed. And that's the part I was talking to you about, acceptance, something which I had earned, by over a decade worth of hard work, came and just went by, and I could not do anything about it. I was completely powerless. And that's what acceptance does to you. That's what life does to you. It teaches you so many things which nobody else can. Thereafter, when I started running back, eventually, again, that thought consumed me, that do I still want to qualify all over again? Because that qualification lasts only for a year. So since I missed the race, there was no way I could have run again without qualifying. And my first instinct was that I don't even want to do it because my body doesn't allow it. I am coming back from an injury which rendered me immobile for 6 months. Do I even have the firepower to go for it? And that's where I started to become detached from all the outcomes. I felt like it is all futile. It is a waste of energy. It is the joy of running that I need to get into. I'm blessed that I'm getting back to the track. That in itself is a blessing enough. I shouldn't link my joy to again qualifying. If that is what I'm doing, I'm perennially creating a way for me to be unhappy. Those are the kind of messages that started to play up. And sometimes when you disconnect from the external world, that is where the real magic begins to happen. Earlier I was so consumed by my own notions about running, about timings, about my hard work, my this, my that. I became completely detached to all of that, as if I don't care anymore. And you will be surprised, Hetal. I mean, it had taken me 10 years to shave off those 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever I was doing. The next time when I reached NDM, my famous hunting ground, I was in a state where I could not even bend down to tie my laces. You know Jyotin, right? Jyotin Bhasin, our good friend, the runner friend. I requested Jyotin that, sir, can you please tie my laces? Out of habit, I always tie my laces before I start a race, just so that it doesn't open up and all that. Jyotin sir, being Jyotin sir, he said that, champ, I'll be delighted to do that, but is everything okay with you? Why are you asking me? I said, that's a story for a different day. And by the way, that story I discussed with him just a couple of weeks back. But he said, I will do it for you, but I need to know what's happening. I said, some other day. That day I started running. I kind of went for it. And you won't believe it, coming back from an injury where I had hardly taken up any miles under my belt, I did that in 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes faster than what I had done, in a state where I could not even tie my laces. And I did not look at my watch once. I qualified again. I got my entry pass again. I did not show up at the Boston because I didn't want to. I just felt like this is not what I was chasing. The next year again I went there. Again I ran the NDM. Not sure of what I want, because all my running career I have been chasing that Boston dream, and I'm confused now with myself. What do I even want? What do I care for? This is something I have created so much hoopla. My wife, my family, my friends, everybody is like, everything has to revolve around Sundeep's pursuit of Boston. Now twice, I don't even know what to do with it. I again ran without a watch. I ended up doing that in 3 or 2 minutes, even faster than what I had done the previous year. And those minutes were shaving by without me realizing what force of nature has taken over. And I realized that it is that detachment that was helping. The way you start to attach yourself to the final outcomes, you start with so much undue pressure, pressure of expectations on yourself, pressure of, feeling the joy only if something happens. So your joy becomes conditional. If something happens, then I am happy. If something doesn't happen, I'm not happy. But I, fortunately or unfortunately, got into a state of mind without me realizing it, that my joy was not conditional. My joy was just about going there and showing up. Even if I can't tie my laces, joy for me was just being there, just showing up. The power of showing up is what I always talk about.
Yeah.
And I realized that, again, it's such a beautiful learning that I always share with my younger friends now, that the idea is to have an ambition, to have a goal, yet be detached from the outcome. It's the most difficult thing to do. I'm not somebody who will ever propose that you become like that monk, like that nirvana guy who doesn't care and who has completely given up on those worldly measures of success.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, maybe that ambition dies down, you will stop growing or evolving as a person. But if you can continue to define those pursuits and targets for yourself, show up every single day without the expectation of necessarily achieving those, still be able to do everything that it takes to get there. It's a very counterintuitive kind of a way of operating. How can you be attached so much to the process when you don't care for the final outcome as much? And that's the state that running has brought me into. That's what I feel grateful for. And that is what this book is all about, by the way.
Wow. So दो चीजें हैं. So this is actually anti-junoon, and I knew that you didn't resonate with that junoon word when you initially mentioned it, right? Second, where is visualization then? You're ruling out the power of visualization, which has allowed so many people to conquer challenges.
Anti-junoon nahi hai, because as I'm saying, when I show up at the race, every moment leading up to that race, I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. Nobody can feed me something which is not a part of my meal plan. Nobody can make me not get up in the morning. Everything will happen. Everything will have to fall in place. So, junoon wahi hai. I will still do everything in my capacity and out of my capacity also at times to be able to achieve it. The only thing that has changed is that at the end of the day, if I have done all of that with the full intensity and junoon that we're talking about, even after that, if I don't get my aspiration, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay. Tying with the result is what you're losing out.
Decoupled from the result, my joy is not linked to the result, but suddenly my joy is linked to every single moment that is leading up to that moment. My joy is if I don't do something which I was supposed to do on a particular day as a part of the training plan, yet I achieve the outcome, I'm not happy with that. I do everything that I was supposed to do leading up to that moment, but I don't achieve what I wanted to. I will still be happy with it. That's what I keep telling my son also, that I'll be proud of you if you do the process right. I'm never ever going to question कि तेरे marks कितने आए. I'm never going to ask you. He comes from his exams, board exam हो, कोई भी exam हो. I never ask him how was the paper. Because what matters to me is something that I've already seen before he went for the paper. Was he doing the right things leading up to that moment? And that's a very small example. But in life at large, I'm happy with him. I said, I'll be proud of you if you do the right things, if you show up every single day, if you don't move away from difficult positions, if you face them head on. उसके बाद result क्या होगा doesn't matter. Absolutely, I couldn't care less. Those are the messages that kind of... So to your point, junoon is still there. Just that the happiness is not linked to the outcome.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive, but now that I have the license to go back to Boston, I don't want to go there. I just feel like sometimes confused. What was the fuss all about over the last decade then? And I finally feel like, getting into Boston race was almost like a crush, like a teenager's crush. But it's the spirit of long distance running that I have fallen in love with. I found my joy and love in the spirit of long distance running. Boston is not my love. Boston was my crush and I have gotten over it. But
and
the
Boston
spirit
is
of long
just one
distance,
place, but spirit of long distance running can happen anywhere in the world.
Anywhere. And I see that so many times. It is not about running. Spirit of long distance running, but it is not about running. It is in relationships. It is at work. It is the way you show up. It is the way you carry yourself. It is the way you talk to your colleagues. It is the way you move around with humility. It is a lot of things which is far from running. In fact, the final line of this book is that if somebody ever remembers me for whatever reasons, I don't want to be remembered as the guy who ran Boston. Hundreds of people run Boston every single year, right? I want to be remembered as somebody who never stopped trying, who followed the process, and who lived the spirit of long distance running every single day. That's how I want to be remembered. That's what running has taught me. I proudly say these are not the things that I came out of my college with. When I came out of the college, my notion of a good, successful, productive person was कि इसको calculus आता है कि नहीं आता. Does he understand mechanics? Does he understand IC engines? And I realized that वो तो बहुत छोटा part है यार life का. There is so much more to life.
True. Academic success, corporate success, running success, and now coming to writing, right? How much of your running endurance or all your achievements contributed you to becoming a good writer? Because, there are tons and tons of stories about writer's blog, how difficult it is to write and so on and so forth. How did you adapt or embrace writing? Was it easy? Was it difficult? You took your time, or any of the learnings from running really contributed towards you becoming a good writer as well.
No, absolutely. I feel, in my opinion, I'm not a professional writer, first of all, so take it with a pinch of salt. But in my limited experience of writing, what I feel is that for a writer to really do justice, you have to genuinely feel for it. You have to genuinely feel for writing. You can't be writing for the purpose of writing because somebody expects you to write, or you had a desire to become an author. I mean, those are kind of superficial motivations. But if you genuinely feel for something, that is where the real essence of what you care for, what you feel for, comes out in your writing. And for me, that is very much linked to running. So when I run, there is so much introspection that I do. There is so many questions that I ask myself. A lot of people ask, I'm sure you have seen those questions as well. People ask you, what do you even think about when you're running? There is an entire book on that, right? One of our Japanese friends has written that.
Murakami.
I feel like there is so much more to that question than what the articulation of that question actually calls out. There are times when I'm thinking about my bank balance. There are times when I'm thinking about my son. There are times I'm thinking about how nice it would have been if Titanic had not sunk. It could be anything random, right? But the point is, there is so much going inside you that you start to genuinely know yourself on a first name basis. There are so many questions. I sometimes wonder, what are my values? Where did I acquire these values from? Am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Some of those philosophical questions that nobody bothers to ask you on your face, I confront those. I ask myself meta questions. Why are these values important to me? Why do I even care? And then that is where you understand yourself on a first name basis genuinely. Before that, I feel like I was a person who had a perception of how I want to carry myself, but running brings that real essence of who I am to the fore. And in the process, there are some stories which start to surface, long forgotten stories, from schooling days, from childhood days, and all of that. When that happens, you feel like writing about it because you find it so close to your heart. I mean, there is a story which once my grandfather, he used to bike around on a bicycle. And on that rod, I used to always complain that it's very uncomfortable when you make me sit on that rod. So one fine day, he got a seat kind of put up on that rod. And he had said to me very happily that now you will never feel uncomfortable in life.
How sweet, yeah. Wow, that's quite a story. I'd not heard the grandfather story. The other thing which is coming to my mind is a lot of people hesitate in writing because they don't think their language is good. A lot of people don't write because they don't remember. These kissas that you remember. It's not that others don't have such anecdotes, just that they don't bring up the essence or importance of those anecdotes and put it out in writing. And the third one, I think, is the time, right? People don't put that pen to paper. Do you actually agree that it's just that all three have worked for you and that's the reason? Or tomorrow, if you are supposed to write a fiction novel, you'll be able to do it as well, with all these elements not being a factor?
No, I think all of what you said is a factor. And there is so much that I feel blessed for. I keep giving a lot of credit to my wife, be it running or be it writing. Every time I have spent even a minute on the track or on my laptop writing out, it has meant that she has had to do extra things which I could have been doing at that point in time. So one, the enablement. And at the same point, that never imagine that you are the one who's orchestrating all the good things happening in your life. There are silent actors, there are active actors, there are passive actors who are all enabling it for you. So yes, a lot of the credit goes to the ambience that I'm a part of, be it my company, be it my family, be it my wife, be it my friends. All of that has had a role to play in me being able to make the time to write. I'll be foolish if I claim that I can write a fiction or a non-fiction tomorrow, take out those factors, and still I'll be able to write. I don't think so. It's a part of, I'm a part of an ecosystem, and I operate the way I do because all the other parts of the machinery are operating the way they are.
Talking about your wife, recently spoke about how you both finished on the finish line on the same event. And I know it's been you. How gratifying it feels to have your spouse sharing your passion.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing because I've been doing this for almost a decade now, and suddenly to have my better half accompany me and being there without any pressures, without any expectations of timing, just being out there in the morning, be with each other, and feeling the euphoria, the energy all across is such a beautiful feeling. I don't even think I can put it in words. And the other thing that I always tell is that my wife, when she did her first 10K, she told me that I have done it in about 90 odd minutes. You take lesser time to run a half marathon. And I told her that you have made that comment today, but never ever again make that comment. Don't belittle your achievement. Don't belittle your effort. And I genuinely believe in that, right? I mean, we're all running our own respective races. We have all had different start lines. We don't know what somebody is going through, what medical challenge somebody is grappling with, what relationship challenge one is grappling with. Then to be able to say that I'm a better runner or you are an inferior runner because I ran in a particular time is, again, highly immature. It is not about that. I told her that for you to show up today morning when she went with me for the first time was a massive achievement. For me, it is easy. I have been able to derive joy out of it. So it's easy for me to get up in the morning and come here. For you to show up in the morning is a far bigger achievement than what I have been able to achieve in this race. We all are living our own journeys, and then let's be grateful and happy about our respective journeys. So yeah, I mean, it's fun to be with her. Always has been, on the track, off the track. Yeah, there is no comparison. I mean, there is no relative kind of stuff going on here.
One thing unique about you is running bare-chested BDHM. So it's showing off your body, t-shirt stories,
It's like I sweat quite a lot. And sometimes I feel like it's holding me back when you want to go all out in the final 2 kilometers. I just feel like somehow if I were to take off the t-shirt and just nichodify it, I would actually be carrying 2 gauges lesser. So that's where it happens. And once you do that, you don't feel like putting it back. That gush of wind hitting you on your body is such a beautiful feeling. So I've done that quite a lot, even in my training run. Like in my society, I'm infamous for doing that, especially in the monsoon season when it gets humid. I just take it off. Don't bother changing your up t-shirts and all of that. Just take it off.
That's true. That's true. 350 half marathons, 100 full marathons. Why no ultras?
Never found any reason to do that. I mean, I just feel like I never did this for a purpose, like in the sense that I was not chasing anything. It just happened accidentally, as I said. Most of the things good things that have happened to me have happened accidentally. So, you know, I ran a half, I ran a full, I ran that 100, may qualify as an ultra, may not qualify as an ultra, but it is just that I've never consciously thought about what I want to do next. One fine day, you might find me training for swimming. I don't know how to swim, by the way. I think I shared with you.
And I laughed.
And you laughed at it. Being an Ironman, you found it hilarious. Swimming nahi aata. But that's what the point is, that a lot of good things just happen because they're supposed to happen. You can't plan and orchestrate everything. So the thought of running an ultra, like a planned ultra, has never come to me. Unplanned ultra to ho chuka hai.
Very true. Very true. Is another book coming up?
Yes. There is a book coming up which we are co-authoring. Me and my wife are co-authoring. We haven't thought about the title, but this is a collection of lessons that we would want to share with our son. You know, when he is navigating his teens and getting into the early 20s, what are the things which you would want to tell him? And most of these things are, as I said, not about our accomplishments or our successes. Most of these are about our vulnerabilities, our genuine emotions, our genuine thoughts, the power of showing up, being true to yourself. You know, some of those softer messages. I'm sure the harder messages he will learn in his colleges and schools. He will get all the right training, data, AI, all of that he will learn. But these messages I want to convey back to him. It has taken me 20 years. I want to just fast track that process for him by sharing those upfront.
I'm sure you read the last lecture.
I read that. In fact, that's where the idea came up. One of my professor friends from IIM Bangalore recommended that book to me about 6 months back. I read that book. I found it extremely touching. And the idea of sharing these kind of messages, not just with my son. Of course, my son is my biggest kind of motivation. But I feel the generation, the similarly aged group people, students will also benefit from it.
And I think there are certain messages, and you know, the last lecture and many other books prove that, right? Mm-hmm. Genuinely heartfelt messages or knowledge never go outdated.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. And you would also recognize that, since you are such an avid reader, I know you read like hundreds of books every year.
Yeah.
A lot of these messages, as you rightly said, they are never out of fashion because they are genuinely core to what a human being is supposed to be. And second, the authors who have put it out there, what I was saying a short while back, have actually written it from the core of their heart. It was never a book that was written with the ambition of becoming an author. It was a book written with the ambition of putting a message out there which you genuinely feel about. Both ways, it works so beautifully.
Yeah. No, you know, when I see an author, a 30-something author publishing a book and becoming a bestseller, I'm like, hats off to you, man. Good job. But I'm going to read it as if the newspaper. I'm not going to read it as a classic. And it will have its shelf life. It will have its time period, because if someone much older is going to talk about it, the way it will present out will automatically be different, because you don't just listen for good stuff or you don't look out for good stuff. You also want to know where the good stuff has come from, because the more deeper it is, the more personal it is, the more weight it carries, and the more weight it gives you as well, right? It gives you that sense of feeling as well. Which are the books which have inspired you, the ones which you narrate or talk about a lot, other than your own?
No, I never talk about my books usually. So Atomic Habits is one book that I have found extremely good. I mean, a lot of small things that it talks about are actually very meaningful. The other book that I read long time back, it is not one of those self-help books with those messages, but it is Ayn Rand's Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. These two books, I'm sure you have read those. If I have to be brutally honest, I had read those books because I was trying to improve my English back in the day when I had to appear for CAT examination. So somebody said that if you can get through these two books, you will come out a far more refined person from your English skills perspective. So that was a motivation to pick that book. But when I read those books, I learned so much about genuine human emotions, in the sense that how relationships work, how you think about something versus how you project yourself. A lot of those questions were born in my head when I read those two books. I mean, I don't claim that I found all the answers, but it got the thought process started for me. Rowan Hawk was the person that I fell in love with instantly when I read that book. So
very interesting. What's the question you always wanted someone to ask you?
What's the question somebody always wanted me to be asked?
Yeah.
That's a tough one, but I guess it would be something on the lines of, what does life mean to you? What does a good, successful life look like? That's a question I would want somebody to ask. Not in the sense of being an articulated English question, but somebody genuinely wanting to understand what a successful life is supposed to be. And my response to that has always been, not always been, but of late, ever since I started understanding life a little better, has always been now that a successful life is not measured by your bank balance. It is not measured by your post. It is not measured by your colleges. It is not measured by your physical possessions. It is measured by who you are as a person, how you carry yourself with humility, how you exude those characteristics when nobody else is watching, how connected and consistent you are in terms of how you are deep within versus how you project yourself. Those are the measures of a successful life, which are very difficult to measure in the true sense. I mean, nobody ever gets to know that what's going through your mind inside you versus how you are carrying yourself. But if there could be consistency, that's a good kind of a metric of success, life well lived, in my opinion. Again, it's a very, what should I say, soft answer to a very profound question, but a question worth reflecting upon. Everybody needs to have their own version of what a successful life is supposed to be. I feel like we get so lost in the rut at times in the daily course that some of these questions start to appear quite late in the day. Like, you don't want to be thinking about these questions at 70. Why not think about them now? And if you do get some clarity, and I hate to claim that I yet don't have that clarity, but at least the process has started. If that you do start to get that clarity, then start to live that life now rather than regretting, if only I had started doing that 2 decades back. That's how I think about it. And then I'm glad that, again, running is pushing me in that direction slowly but surely.
Yeah. So purpose of life and spiritual topics, who do you look up to, or whose views are something that has impacted you?
Yeah, I very strongly believe that I don't necessarily shape my views or opinions on this kind of a topic by reading anyone. I believe like we always are striving for answers. And in our quest to find those answers, we look outward, books, influencers, a lot of things. Genuinely, the answer to every single question that is worth pondering over lays deep within. Just the intent and the ability to dig deep within and find the answer. We always look for validations. We always look for confirmations. We always look to get that assurance that this is the right way to think, because that is how the social decorum warrants it to be. But in the process, we lose that real essence. Nobody was born with these messages. The ones who have genuinely understood what it means to live a successful life, and genuinely, not like in the form of a social media influencer, but genuinely, and I don't even know if there are many of those examples, have done it the hard way by looking deep within and connecting with yourself. So to your question, who influences or who I look up to, maybe no one, but the quest is to, look within and find those answers.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, in no way suggesting that I don't want to learn from others, but I just feel like there is so much noise around us. There is so much social media frenzy. Every alternate person wants to be an influencer. And I feel I don't even want to get carried away in that noise. I'll rather shun that noise and think for myself about what
I
success.
hear you. I think by not pinpointing one particular person, and yet obviously in every way that you come across, you are someone who is open to listening to people. It's just that you don't want one person attention or from one source, but when you're open for knowledge from multiple disparate sources, ultimately what's going to get into you is your interpretation rather than what other people are saying. And whether your interpretation is made from one person or from 100% does not matter, because it's your interpretation within which is going to stay with you, which is, form your belief and, come out in your actions. So whether it came from 10% does not matter.
Right? I think it was you who had once mentioned that when you read books, you don't underline things. I think what you had told me once was that what is supposed to stay with me will stick with me anyway. I don't need to underline things. It's that you are open to absorb, but then you are not consciously looking to say that this is the person that I need to learn from. This is the book I need to learn from. Let it all come in. Let it all sink in. And then, have that value system of your own, which will tell you what needs to stick, what needs to just, brush it aside and move forward. So that's how it is.
It's if I say I'm a Shah Rukh fan, I would not allow an Amir Khan movie to impress me. Because I'm looking for a Shah Rukh in an Amir, which I will not find. Right?
Yeah.
So similarly, if I start building a strong association with one belief or one set identity, then I'm automatically restricting many other identities or thoughts or opinions to come into me, right? Which will obviously shorten my understanding power, because if I have to live for a long time, I can't say boss ho gaya and sit down.
That doesn't work. True.
My favorite part of the podcast, what's the question you have for me?
What's the question I have for you?
Yes.
I will make sure that I think about it before I ask, since I have the opportunity to ask it. So, Hetal, you are somebody who has lived an unconventional path.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you took a break from your corporate, you did your own thing, you became an angel investor, you followed your passion, you did your ultras, Ironman, you have been there. If I recall very correctly, I think you had done a 15-minute plank hold in a moving train as well.
That's right.
I get that right? So you have your own notion of how you want to live life, and you have lived that path. I want to know, are there any regrets or are there any fears that you have confronted along the way? It's easy to look at it from outside and say that, this is a path well lived. This is a path courageously lived. But what does that courage look like every single morning when you have to? I'm sure there are fears, insecurities which are trapped deep within, which you have a way of managing. But what's going inside Hetal when he continues to tread this seemingly unconventional path?
I think the great question. The first thing I would say, that my father has left behind a far more deeper impact on me than what I would have ever realized. It's never a question of fear. It's always a question of what if. Can I? I don't put strong conditions on how it should pan out, but it should happen. Whether it's a run, and in fact, after the mad chase I had for a sub 4, which I achieved in 2023, I've lost count of number of times I've said, I don't want to chase a sub 4 anymore. Aega to theek hai, nahi aega to theek hai. In terms of setting goals and what I want to do next, the reason I decided to do my PhD was so inane and so lame, right? I mean, like, people will be like, yeah, just want to teach. I mean, now my intent to do PhD was teaching, and now in all practical purposes, PhD is not even needed to do teaching, and I'm already doing lots of teaching assignments. But would that mean that I have to relook at my PhD goal? No, obviously not, because the purpose of doing something is not what you do that for. There is a larger purpose, right? My PhD is not to do PhD. My PhD is to inculcate a structured learning program at this age, which has taught me so many things. I mean, my PhD has improved my running. It gives me that sense of confidence that, okay, I'm stepping on board. I'm a more sound literate guy. I can't be making as many mistakes as I would have done if I was not a PhD. So it automatically makes me start looking at myself differently. I don't care whether the world looks. When I look at myself differently, I change. If the world looks at me differently, it actually drags me down. I find it difficult when people praise me, oh, Hetal, or I'm like, please, let's change the topic now. Let's talk something different. Interesting enough, and I am happy to share this. One thing which has come to my mind, and My own daughter does not know about it. She's planning to do a GMAT. Give her GMAT masters. I plan to give a GMAT.
Oh, wonderful. That would be fun.
Which I know it's difficult. I never gave a GMAT. And I think it's a great chance for me to work along with my daughter, page by page, hour by hour. And
That's going to be so much fun. That's going to be so much fun. Amazing.
And
that's so
पता नहीं कभी chance मिला तो I definitely don't want to crack the IITJEE.
Wonderful. No, this is the zeal for life.
I'll come to you for guidance for that.
I have long forgotten all those
कैसे classes bunk करनी चाहिए, किसकी classes नहीं जाना चाहिए.
That I can definitely give you a lot of guidance on. You can count on me for that.
Yeah, I think what I've realized about my own journey is the subtlety of doing it at your pace, at your time.
Yes.
In fact, I was just speaking to someone. I'm like, क्या प्रेशर क्या होता है भाई? ये प्रेशर वर्ड कहाँ से है? प्रेशर तो कुकर में होता है. आदमी को प्रेशर क्यों आता है? I read to someone, I was like, प्रेशर तो कुकर होता है. आदमी प्रेशर या तो लोहे का प्रेशर होता है या कुकर का प्रेशर होता है. आदमी और प्रेशर doesn't make sense, right?
Correct.
Pressure in the terminology cannot be applied to humans.
Yeah.
So it's a very mechanical term, right? And referring to the fear, and I'd said this in a previous podcast, I don't have fear of death. And the gentleman who heard that, he was like, if you don't have fear of death, that means you're fearless. When you're fearless, you do everything with fun. You do everything with ease, right? It's not that I do it well. It's not that I'm like getting 100 out of 100 in an exam. It's that I'm enjoying the process, and what we discussed before the call. If you enjoy the process, the outcome is a non-issue.
Yeah.
If you enjoy the outcome, the process is crap.
Yeah.
I mean, you finish the marathon and you're like exhausted, like you're looking for a bottle of water and replenish yourself, and then you're down for a week. Your recovery run is postponed for a week because you so badly hit yourself during the run that your recovery took a week. And when I'm not doing that, when I'm not pushing myself, I finish the run. I'm like, chalo, let's go for another run. And I've observed this, right? I think the term which I use is effortless effort. The day you don't make an effort is where you have achieved success.
Correct.
Till you are saying, I'm making an effort, boss, bekar hai.
Correct.
I love the term, effortless effort, right?
Effortless effort. Amazing.
When Federer is hitting a return, you might think that he's putting effort, but that's effortless effort. The entire effort was spent 12 hours training for that 2-hour match. So
true.
That's my story.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that's so good to hear, and I'm not surprised to hear it. I'm sure you are somebody who is well read, well interacted. I'm sure the perspectives as is evident from this entire podcast as well. You have been speaking to so many people, so that perspective kind of reflects in the way you talk about it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sundeep. I know this was long due, and I took my time to get you on board because I wanted to make sure that we create the right mahol around it before this.
It is such a pleasure, yeah. इतनी तो हमने कभी बात वैसे भी नहीं कभी रनिंग में भी नहीं की, but I'm so happy that you finally made the time. So good to hear this all. Amazing.
बढ़िया. Thanks a lot, bye.